News and information 570 AM.
96.3 FM HD2. KLIF Dallas. KSCS FM HD2 Fort Worth. KLIF.com.
A Cumulus station.
Now, from the 5th floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731-6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
Sellers, how would you like your home sold guaranteed? Buyers, how would you like your bid guaranteed to win? Well, it's real simple. Call Mike Kruizinga with Chris Arnold Premier Realty and ask about their guarantee programs for both buyers and sellers. No one beats Mike's professional listing and marketing services for all price ranges, including luxuries and ranches. And few have the knowledge and patience to take first-time buyers from renting to home ownership in a tough market. Visit DFWMetroplexRealestate.com and mention you heard this on the radio. And listen to Mike Sundays, 8 a.m. on KLIF for Inside Real Estate.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Inside Real Estate. Hello, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. This is your local Dallas-Fort Worth area realtor, Mike Kruizinga, host here Inside Real Estate. And by the way, we are here live every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be talking all things real estate today. We got all kinds of good stuff. We've got an action-packed show for you today. We bring you all kinds of good information every week. And not only do we bring you great real estate information, we try to bring you some entertainment, a little bit of sports and whatnot if we can. By the way, we had Coach Wood from Aledo football program in a couple weeks ago. Great interview, 5-time state champion out of the last 6 years, and went to the championship his first year in 2014. Obviously, he was coordinator prior to that for many years since 2002, but that was a great interview, and if you missed that, check out InsideRealEstateRadio.com, hit the archive page, and you can catch that interview. And we have all of those segments from our high school sports segments there on the archive page if you want to check that out. A lot of great stuff there. What's going on today? Let me tell you, we got some great stuff. Coming up, we've got J.C. Harder from the Goosehead Insurance Agency. We're going to be talking insurance talk. He's going to be talking about Safeco, one of the providers that he works with. He's able to shop many providers for all your insurance needs, and we've got some great information from him regarding Safeco. We're also going to be talking with Kevin Hamus, owner of Ideal Floors. We're going to be talking about some of the great things that they do, not only for you as the customer, but also in the community, which is almost as important, if not more important. Very biblically based, and they operate that way, and they're always reaching out to the community to try and help the community in any way that they can. And so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about that program, Ideal Floors Gives Back, which is a great program. One of the reasons of really why I like working with these guys, because they are just absolutely amazing. Also, going to be talking to our ladies from Millennium Title, and we're going to be talking surveys. Survey says, and surveys are so important, and we're going to be talking about that. There's many issues that come up that are related to surveys when you're purchasing a property, as well as when you own a property, if you have not already paid attention to that in advance. And we've got a couple great stories for you that are actually really scary. How would you like to be landlocked and not be able to literally get to your home? Well, stay tuned for that. That's a great story, and it's related to surveys. So listen up for that. And then lastly, we're going to go into mortgage talk. We're going to be talking to our ladies from Supreme Lending Rockwall, Rocky Martin team. We got some great information there. We're going to be kind of going through the whole mortgage process, if you will, the abbreviated version of it. And you're going to learn a lot of great things there. Whether you've been through the mortgage process in the past or you have not, it's still great information. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. We're going to have a great time with that. So that's what we got in the show. It's going to be action-packed. What's going on in real estate right now? Well, we just had our voting, and as I've been talking about the last couple of weeks, Proposition 1, which was really important so that we could increase our property tax deduction. Went from $15,000 to $25,000, and that was approved. So that is great news. And the funny thing about that was it was 87% to 13%. So what I'm wondering is who in the world is part of that 13% that thought that was a bad thing? To reduce your taxes. I've never seen that before. The 13% voted that's a bad thing to decrease our property taxes, and that is pretty wild and crazy. But overall, 87% of us, I guess, had a brain and thought that reducing taxes was a good thing. Reducing property taxes is a good thing. So thank goodness that 87% turned out, because if the 13% was actually the 87%, that would be kind of scary. So still kind of scary that 13% thought that was a good thing. Very scary. So pretty good turnout, actually. So that was a really positive for real estate, really positive for homeowners in general. So really excited about that. That was absolutely great. Folks, we're going to have an absolute great show. It's going to be action-packed. I hope you stay tuned for it. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. Website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. And if you want to call in during the show, it's 888-787-KLIF, 888-787-KLIF. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. We'll be back in a few.
Millennium Title Carroll PC Real Estate is a unique multi-service real estate title, law, and real estate investment firm that handles over 150 commercial and residential closings each month. Their real estate, legal, and tax services range from purchases to refinances to short sales and reverse mortgages. They can handle all of your real estate, legal, and tax planning needs. Their experience offers clients and investors a comprehensive perspective in managing their real estate law and investment needs. Visit txtitleattorney.com, that's txtitleattorney.com, or call 817-310-0136.
KLIF News and Information, still at 570 AM and also at 96.3 FM HD2.
With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
The J.C. Harder Insurance Agency in Uptown Dallas has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the J.C. Harder Insurance Agency Network. For a quote today on all your insurance needs, stop by J.C.'s office on McKinney Avenue in Uptown Dallas. Call 214-643-6108 or visit jcharderagency.com. That's 214-643-6108 or jcharderagency.com.
Do you know the difference between a business and a successful business? Excellent branding. You can increase your sales and branding recognition by attending a 1-hour free Cumulus Radio branding seminar, Wednesday, November 18th. You'll learn the 4 keys of branding, how to use trigger events to drive business, and how to market your business. You'll even get a free lunch. To join us, call 214-523-2760. That's 214-523-2760.
Hey folks, we're back with Inside Real Estate. It's Mike Kruizinga here. Time for another insurance segment with J.C. Harder from the J.C. Harder Goosehead Insurance brand.
Website at jcharderagency.com, jcharderagency.com. Phone number 214-643-6108, where they always stand by for all your insurance needs. We're kind of doing a rolling segment, folks, of the various providers that JC works with and is able to match you up with based on your needs. And that's one of the great things about JC and his company. We're going to talk a little bit about Safeco today. JC, welcome back.
Happy Sunday, Mike. Glad to be back.
Happy Sunday. So let's give everybody some info on this particular provider, Safeco.
Great. Well, I could probably go on and on about Safeco. It's one of our best carriers that we represent, one of the oldest insurance companies in the nation, completely A-rated as far as their financial responsibility. So what that means in English is they have the money to pay out on claims when and if something happens. Now, basically, a few years ago, Liberty Mutual acquired Safeco as their independent agent provider. So Safeco Insurance is a member of the Liberty Mutual group. So if you have Liberty Mutual, then that's a captive Liberty Mutual agent that can only sell Liberty Mutual, where Safeco is the product for all the independent agents out there like ourselves. So with that, merger there, requirement, then that makes them the 5th largest insurance company in the nation. So again, just to go on back to it, as far as you don't want these no-name cut rate insurance companies. This is about the farthest thing from that. These are for your most preferred type clients. You get occupation discounts for your, if you're teachers in the education field, professors, engineers, even sales managers at sales job, real estate jobs. They give you they have a very niche preferred market, and when you hit that market, they are very, very competitive.
Okay. So, and that's a great point to know for everyone that's, huge company, safe, and like you say, if you're just going out there and shopping for the best rate and using a no-name cut slash price type of premium, then you may not be getting covered when you need it. And folks, this is all about covering your assets, covering yourself, and when you need it, you want to make sure that you're going to get getting taken care of, and obviously you're going to be safe with Safeco.
On the home side with Safeco, kind of like if you remember a couple weeks ago with Travelers, they do not limit the water damage either, and I can't stress enough, how important that is. So again, on your older homes, especially in your kind of White Rock, Lakewood area, all those homes over there, they give you all 4 water coverages available, and they don't limit, because of the age of the house. So obviously the plumbing has to be kept up, but, as long as it is, you won't have any bad claim situations that way.
And statistically, water damage is one of the damages that occurs most, right? And so that's why that's really very important.
Yeah, just think about it. You're using it between your AC, your water heater, your washing machine, just the pipes itself, with the showers and the baths and everything and the sinks. So that's why it's most common, is because you're using it so much.
Sure.
A lot of preferred market people that pay off their mortgage, that do not have the mortgage anymore, Safeco will knock off hundreds of dollars just right off the top, because that puts you in that preferred tiering. You're responsible. You've, taken care of it. So not that it's a surcharge if you do have a mortgage like most people do. However, if you do, like some investors out there, paying cash for deals, you can do some landlord policies with no mortgage, and typically they're very, favorable, and they still write the top-notch coverage as well. For all the sport fans out there, if you think you've heard of Safeco, you probably have, because the Seattle Mariners, they play in Safeco Field up there in Washington. So that's where they're incorporated. So a little bit more advertising on the West Coast, especially the Northwest Coast. However, they are a national carrier and right all across the country.
Very good, very good.
On the auto side with Safeco, again, because, we always want to bundle and package. That's how you get your best premiums and your best product. They're probably the most flexible with their down payment. For instance, if you're in that preferred tiering, you can get a year-long auto policy instead of a 6-month policy, and they'll give you, a couple $100 off if you can pay in full, which, a year's worth of auto insurance can be pretty high, especially if you're talking about multiple drivers and cars and everything. But Safeco will say, okay, we'll give you the paid in full price, but you only have to pay it in 2 6-month installments. So it's still a year-long policy. However, you're getting to break that payment up, and you're still, getting the reward, for being a responsible shopper.
That's a huge benefit right there, because if you're going to get that discount for the full year and then gives you the flexibility to pay it semi-annually, that's pretty huge right there. That, I think, would be very appealing for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And then another nice little, a lot of people get scared of the change in process on the auto insurance side because they just paid, company A, and then now you're wanting another down payment. Safeco will allow us to delay that payment, so you can either do a double payment once you get that refund from your previous company, or we can just do the month-to-month payment but still take it after you've gotten that refund. So it kind of helps with your out-of-pocket expense.
Great point there.
A couple more things on the auto, kind of a real-life situation. My sister-in-law in West Texas was involved in an accident, and she has Safeco for her cars. She actually got into an accident with another Safeco provider, and they went to their preferred vendor out there, and they basically waived the claim since they were both Safeco clients. So, or not waive the claims, I'm sorry, but waive the deductibles.
Oh, wow. So that's just another huge benefit right there. So sounds to me like, as far as the customer service aspect and as far as the claims experience that you're going to have, with these guys is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have all their, another auto claim is coming to mind of a situation last week. And, it's a mom with 2 kids and, just kind of got frantic, after the wreck. We sat on the claims call with her, talked to the adjuster, calmed her down. They worked directly with the Enterprise. They came and towed her vehicle from that house later that day and had all the Enterprise set up, and we did it all on a 15-minute call, and she was just blown away by the service.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And the reason, why we're paying these premiums every month or 3 months, semi-annual, annual, is to be covered when something does happen. And folks, when something happens, it's a pain in the absolute butt, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a storm at your house. The last thing we want to be worrying about is how we're potentially going to get financially hit because of the type of coverage that we had, and we didn't take the time to look at it and pay enough attention to it. Look, it's going to only take you a few minutes to talk to JC or Patty over at Goosehead and figure out what you need to do. So if something does happen, and folks, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when something's going to happen. Hopefully it's just going to be minor, but something's going to happen to all of us. We need to make sure we're covered and that financially we're not going to get seriously hit. And that will be the case if you get with JC and get taken care of.
Absolutely. Last little piece on the home that makes them unique. A lot of companies don't give full replacement costs for metal roofs. They basically put in an endorsement called, there's no cosmetic, there's a cosmetic exclusion there. But Safeco is one of the few that will give you full replacement costs for that metal roof.
Well, and that's huge because metal roofs are so expensive. And, generally we're going to get a discount for having those types of roofs because they're heavy duty. But you don't want to put it in and then something happened to find out later. Well, too bad. Well, you got to downgrade to shingles now because you're not going to get covered for that. Great point, JC. Hey, folks, it's been another great segment with JC Harder, JC Harder Goosehead Insurance Brand Agency. Website, jcharderagency.com. Phone number 214-643-6108. For all your insurance needs, home, auto, toys, talk to JC Harder. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. We'll be back in a few.
Millennium Title Carroll PC Real Estate is a unique multi-service real estate title, law, and real estate investment firm that handles over 150 commercial and residential closings each month. Their real estate, legal, and tax services range from purchases to refinances to short sales and reverse mortgages. They can handle all of your real estate, legal, and tax planning needs. Their experience offers clients and investors a comprehensive perspective in managing their real estate, law, and investment needs. Visit txtitleattorney.com. That's txtitleattorney.com or call 817-310-0136.
This is Tom Caulfield and Sean Manning of the Power Trading Radio Show, sponsored by the Online Trading Academy of Dallas.
We invite you to listen to our show this Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. on 570 KLIF,
where you will learn key strategies to put money in your pocket the very next week, regardless of market direction.
Do you know the difference between a business and a successful business? Excellent branding. You can increase your sales and branding recognition by attending a 1-hour free Cumulus Radio branding seminar, Wednesday, November 18th. You'll learn the 4 keys of branding, how to use trigger events to drive business, and how to market your business. You'll even get a free lunch. To join us, call 214-523-2760. That's 214-523-2760.
Hey folks, it's Mike Kruizinga with Inside Real Estate. We are back. It's time for another segment with our favorite friend in the flooring industry, Kevin Hamas, the absolute greatest owner of the greatest flooring company in all of DFW. By the way, the website for those guys, idealfloors.com, idealfloors.com. Cell number, by the way, for the owner, 214-789-0422. When you give him a call, he's going to take care of you. Make sure you let them know you heard it on the radio. Kevin, how are we doing today?
We're doing great. You're really kind with your comments. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's the absolute truth. I am a truth sayer, and I love saying the truth. So we love working with you guys, and we've got some good success stories already. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But one of the great things I like is the program that you guys do, Ideal Floors Gives Back. And the fact that you guys are really biblically principled. And so let's talk about that. Let's get into that, Kevin.
Well, it's something that it was in January of 2012. I felt the Lord just came to me and said that we need to be giving more flooring away. And so, biblically, it talks about taking care of the needy. So what we focus on is people who own their houses, their mortgage has to be current, and there's no way they can afford flooring right now, or it doesn't look like they'll ever be able to afford it in the future. The flooring has to be in pretty bad shape because we're looking for people who are in desperate need of flooring.
Right.
So what we do is anybody who's interested or think they know somebody who's interested can go to our website, idealgivesback.com, and there's an icon called Ideal Gives Back, and you can go ahead and click on that, fill out an application, and the application comes to me, and I look at all the applications that come across. Right now, we're really concentrating on single moms because they're, barely can get by generally, the elderly who are on fixed incomes, and then people with long-term illnesses. But if there's other situations that come up, we look at everything. But it's mainly for people who are in desperate need, and what it is we give $1,500 worth of credit in our stores for material and installation that, to put in their homes at no cost to them.
Right. And so, this isn't for, folks, if you just want free flooring, that's not what it's about. This is about, legitimate folks, legitimate cases where, somebody really is in desperate need of flooring. Either maybe something happened in their house. Let's say they had an accident or some sort of catastrophe, some sort of damage that they had, and for whatever reason they can't get flooring taken care of, and or anything happened. Lots of different things can happen, folks, to you, and if you're kind of barely getting by, you know how tough it is, and that might be the last thing you're thinking about, because you're trying to pay the bills, trying to keep the electricity on, or you're trying to get food on the table for your kids. And so to have a program like this where you can go to get help with this, I think is really amazing and really huge.
Yes, and it's really, our business is mainly in business to do ministry work. That's what we're basically a ministry that makes money to help people. That's what our motto is. And last year we helped about 50 families, and this year we're hoping to do more and, continue to help out in the community, to advance the kingdom and just help as many people as we can.
Absolutely. And folks, we're always on Sunday mornings between 8 and 9 a.m. And a lot of folks, you're getting ready for church, or you're driving to church for that early service, or you're catching the late service. This is a great time to be thinking about, if you're going to be doing business, if you're going to be getting flooring in the near future, you want to do business with this type of company that gives back in the community. And if you know of someone that is in need, dire need of flooring in their home, then you want to give Kevin a call. You want to get them hooked up with Kevin, and so they can get an application in and see if we can't get them taken care of. So, folks, as you're thinking about getting ready to go to church this morning, think about this as well. Is there somebody out there that you know through work, through church, a friend of a friend that needs help with their flooring? If they're in need, well, we need to get them hooked up right here, right now with Kevin.
And one thing I also want to mention is that, we've been in business like 28 years now. And from the very beginning, we committed to operate on biblical principles, and that's what we have really strived to do. I also have a 100% satisfaction guarantee in place that if we do a job and you're not satisfied with it, I'm going to do everything I can to satisfy you, no matter what it takes. That came about 4 years ago. The question really came into my mind is, how would Christ run a business? And if everything goes right, it's easy to run a business. But the real question is, what happens when something goes wrong? And I felt the way Christ would run a business, he would just take care of the customers. That's what he would do. He owns everything, so he would just take care of the customers. So that's when we started doing that, and like I said, we do everything we can to help to satisfy the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, do you think if you're going to go out there and get your flooring from one of the big box retailers, do you think you're going to get that kind of service? Do you think you're ever going to talk to the owner of the company? I think not. In fact, I know not. You're not going to talk to the owner of that big box company. It's just not going to happen. So why do business with those folks? Why not do business with these folks, real down home folks that also give back to the community, folks? With Ideal Floors Gives Back. It's an amazing program. I really love that program. And just how you guys operate from top down, bottom up. You're always looking out for the consumer in how you do business so you can pass on savings to them. And then the fact that you guys give back as well is just amazing. So, folks, if you know of somebody that is in need of flooring, you need to get them hooked up with Kevin here. And if you're thinking about making upgrades in your home, if you're lucky enough to be, stable enough to upgrade your flooring in your home, you want to do business with people like Kevin that actually give back versus some of those big box retailers that you get nothing out of, and you're certainly not going to talk to the owner. But that's who you want to do business with, folks. Kevin, any last parting info?
Yeah, actually there is. One thing, all we really ask is for an opportunity to earn your business. We have 100%, or we have a price match guarantee on any exact match product. You bring a product in, if we can get the exact match, we will beat their price. Also, if you're not in any need for flooring right now, but if you know somebody who's in need of flooring, we pay referral fees, anywhere from $25 to $250, depending on how much the people buy. So if you're not ready to do flooring now, but you hear somebody mention it, your friend or relative, just send them into us, and then if they buy, we will pay you a referral fee.
Absolutely. That is amazing. So, folks, Kevin's given you a gazillion different reasons right there why you need to do business with them. If you're strictly a bottom line person, you're looking number to number, product to product, he just told you flat out he will price match guarantee and beat it if he can. Folks, that's absolutely amazing. So if you find that product you want at a big box retailer, and you think it's an amazing price, take it to Kevin, and he will take care of you right there. Folks, but for all the rest of you out there, that's for you bottom line folks. And look, we all want to get a good deal, and we want to get great service. But for the rest of us who think beyond that, that's great. We want that, absolutely. But when you think beyond that and about a company where they just do business the right way, they care about you and they care about others, they give back to the community, this is who you want to do business with, folks. Whether you've got flooring that you need to upgrade yourself, a friend that needs to do it, or somebody that's desperately in need, Kevin's going to take care of them. Folks, it's been another great segment with the owner of Kevin Hamus of Ideal Floors, their website, idealfloors.com. Phone number where they're always standing by for you, 214-789-0422. By the way, that is the cell phone number of Kevin Hamus. He takes all the calls. He will take care of you directly. Such a rarity, folks. Another great segment with Ideal Floors owner Kevin Hamus. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. We'll be back in a few.
Millennium Title Carroll PC Real Estate is a unique multi-service real estate title, law, and real estate investment firm that handles over 150 commercial and residential closings each month. Their real estate, legal, and tax services range from purchases to refinances to short sales and reverse mortgages. They can handle all of your real estate, legal, and tax planning needs. Their experience offers clients and investors a comprehensive perspective in managing their real estate law and investment needs. Visit txtitleattorney.com, that's txtitleattorney.com, or call 817-310-0136.
Hey folks, we're back. It's Inside Real Estate, and it's time to head into Title Talk with our favorite ladies from Millennium Title. Website, millenniumtitle.com. Phone number, 817-310-0136. We've got Brooke Owen and Shonda Bronner here in the studio, and we're going to be talking about surveys. Folks, surveys are extremely, extremely important. When you're buying a property, they show the legal boundaries of the property, and they're just, I can't stress how important they are, and we're going to talk about that with the ladies. Ladies, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning. So, what's the scoop on surveys?
Well, we just want to talk a little bit about how important it is to have a survey. We have people ask us a lot of times when they're paying cash, do I really need a survey? Do I want to pay for it? The price of surveys has increased, and especially if you're buying a larger property. I mean, you could be looking at $700-800, if not more, for a survey. And so a lot of times people are trying to weigh their options and kind of see how they can save some money. We usually always advise people that you really want a survey. Even if you're paying cash, if you've got a mortgage, your lender's going to require a survey. But even if you're paying cash, for example, if, Mike, if you go buy a house, it's got a pool and really love the house, and a couple years later, you go to sell it. And the person who's purchasing the house from you is using a mortgage company. You paid cash, you didn't have to have a survey, you decided, no, I'm not going to pay for a survey, no big deal. So your buyer then, a few years later, they're using a mortgage company, they got to have a survey. So the survey's done, and sure enough, they find out that this pool you've been enjoying for the last couple of years is actually on your neighbor's property line. And so therefore, I mean, your neighbor probably doesn't even know it's, over their property line. You didn't know. But the problem is you can't sell the house now, not to a buyer who is using a mortgage company, because every lender is going to require the survey coverage, and no title company is going to issue a policy with that pool being over the neighbor's property line. So you're stuck. You're stuck in a house that you wanted to sell, and now, you don't have a lot of options. Just because of a survey.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so you're left with, okay, take it up, remove it, fill it in with dirt, and that might be a $30,000, $50,000, $150,000 pool.
Right.
And to fill that thing in with dirt because you didn't get your survey.
And then you just lost property value too, because you no longer have a pool to sell. So
exactly. So that $800 you were going to spend on the survey would have been well worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing with the surveys and pools, I had a client that they were buying a house specifically because they wanted to put a pool in the backyard, and they did not get a survey on the property. Come to find out, when the pool company came out to put the pool in, there was easements all through the backyard, so they were not allowed to actually put in a pool, and they were very upset. But if they had gotten a survey, they would have known from the beginning that the pool wasn't going to be allowed. So it's always good to have one.
And that falls to not only the buyer, of course, but and to me, some of this stuff is so much common sense, but the buyers, need to be guided a little bit by the agent, and the agent should have this knowledge as well. So, I mean, I've had clients, like you say, who are buying a property and with the intent to put in a pool in that backyard. Correct. Well, first thing we got to do is, if the seller doesn't have a survey, and it's not a survey that's fairly recent, make sure there's no additional changes to the property, then maybe we need a new survey, and we do that survey during the option period. And so maybe we get a little bit longer option period, we get that survey, and we make sure that, like you say, there's no major utility easements going through the backyard, so we can actually put a pool in, or where can we put a pool in? Right. Because there are going to be easements in the backyard, bottom line. Right. Every house has got some sort of utility easements in the backyard, so working around that, can we put a pool in?
Right, big enough that you want it.
Yeah, and then if that's a negative, then, you're going to have to get out of that contract during the option period. But hey, you can't just buy the house assuming you can throw a pool in there.
Right.
Hello.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and you want to have that survey reviewed. And, as a title company, we have the seller, we do some research, ask the seller, have you made any changes? Have you put a pool in? For example, the ones that put the pool in on the neighbor's property line, they shouldn't have been able to put that in. But as the title company, if we got a survey from them, we're going to be asking, have you made any changes to the property since the original survey was done? Because if not, we've got to have a new one. We're not going to accept a survey and issue survey coverage if we don't have proof that there were no changes made.
Right. And you just mentioned survey coverage. It's not required, but it's an optional thing that you can have with your owner's title policy. One thing that it does cover, say there wasn't any easements, you did put a pool in, come to find out the title company actually missed that easement on the policy. So the utility company comes in, they dig up your pool because there was an easement, but we missed it. We will cover all of all of your fees, all of your everything to replace your pool and put it exactly back the way it was after the utility company comes in and, destroys your pool. That's what survey coverage does for you. Yeah, that's what it does for you.
Yes, and they will destroy it.
They
Absolutely.
will. They have to get where they have to go.
And so talking about the survey coverage, usually that's maybe only $50, $75 additional.
It's 5% of your owner's policy.
Yeah, it's not a big extra charge. And a lot of people don't know about it or don't think about it. But it's well worth it.
What we cover is well worth the price that you're paying. Because we cover a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about big ticket items. We're talking about pools right here.
Right.
But, a very common thing is fences. Mm-hmm. The fence line kind of is, may move a little bit over time, if you will. So we got to pay attention to that. And, maybe large storage units or large buildings that were put.
Driveways maybe that were put in or moved.
Right.
Exactly. And usually we're putting these things in, particularly storage units or storage buildings, along a fence line, right? Mm-hmm. So very common to put that into an easement that you're not paying attention to, stuff like that. And you're absolutely right, the driveways. Mm-hmm. Or what if the house was just slightly built in front of the build line?
Right. Exactly. Or a lot of people are putting in, the outdoor kitchens and patios, and if any of that, is in a place where it shouldn't be, that's something that will require a new survey for. And a lot of people ask, why it's not a pool, it's not out in the yard, it's it's right next to the house, but it's it's still structural. Mm-hmm. So we're going to want to get a new survey to make sure that that's not crossing any restricted areas.
Exactly.
Right. We're not, trying to spend people's money here.
Right.
We're just trying to look out for them. And I know if I'm buying a property, a survey is one of my number one things to look at. I want to make sure that the fences are where they need to be because, a neighbor could move. That neighbor may be nice that's there now. A new one, maybe not so nice.
They may get a survey when they buy and decide, wait a minute, I want my yard to be a few feet bigger.
Yeah. I mean, if your fence is 2 feet into their yard, well, hey, the 2 feet's actually kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
So I want to know all of those things and make sure that the storage units, the storage buildings are not in the easement, especially if they're big, huge ones. I mean, especially if you got a rural property and it's a large one. I mean, that thing could be 100,000 square feet, but if it's 10 feet into the utility easement, ooh. Mm-hmm. That could be a problem. That's a big building to move. You might pass on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Shonda, you had a story, I believe, about a rural property.
Yes, I had a closing a couple of years ago, and it was in a rural property, and the people did not get a survey. Come to find out, the people that owned it before, they were using access through a neighbor's driveway or a neighbor's road, I guess, and that person was letting them use it, for years and years. And so they just assumed that they had access to it. Well, come to find out the person died and his kids took the property over and he no longer allowed them access. So basically he did not have access to his property in any way. So if he had had a survey, he would have realized that there was no access, that he did not own any sort of access to his property. And he just assumed that because he didn't have one, that those people had been using that certain road the whole time to get to their property. And once the man died, that was nice, and his kids took the property over, there was actually no way for him to get to his property anymore. It was completely landlocked.
Yeah.
You had to buy a parachute.
Yeah.
Parachute into
parachute in every
That's
time.
That's the only way you're getting
chopper in every time.
He actually did start flying in. I heard that he couldn't get to his property.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and what do you do when that happens? And I can see this with rural properties. You may be hesitant to buy a survey more in the rural properties just because they add up.
Right.
I had one out near Bonham. And it was almost 20 acres, and which isn't all that large, but the survey ended up being about $1,800. So it was roughly, $100 per acre on the survey, which adds up for sure.
It's worth it once you can't get to your property anymore.
Yeah, I mean, what if you find out, that road that you thought may have been just a common road,
right?
But when you get into rural,
it was
chances are that's a private road. and if that's the only way in and you're surrounded by other acreages that abut up to your acreage,
right,
and there's no way in off street access, you could really be in for a world of hurt right there.
Yeah, he definitely was.
Yeah, you have to the only way out of that is essentially attempting to buy a piece of land from a neighbor.
Right, you can buy part of their land to get access to
buy part of their land,
mm-hmm.
and then you got to put a road in.
That's extremely expensive, I'm sure, because you're at their mercy. They
right.
can charge you whatever they want.
Well, what if you only have two neighbors, one on each side, and
right.
one owns the back side, and there's no way in from the back? You could be literally really up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just a great example of why you need a survey, especially if you're buying a big piece of land. But even if you're just buying that standard subdivision lot, you need it.
Right.
Okay. Well, folks, it's been another great segment with the ladies from Millennium Title. We were talking all about surveys. MillenniumTitle.com. Phone number 817-310-0136. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. We'll be back in a few.
Glenn back. Social justice and political correctness is reaching its all-time insane high. This either crests and comes down, or you go into total fascism.
Glenn Beck, 9 to noon, 570 KLIF.
All right, folks, we're back with Inside Real Estate. It's Mike Kruizinga, website InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. It's time for another great mortgage segment with our exclusive team here as part of the radio show, the Supreme Lending Rockwall team. Website RockyMartin.com, Rocky with an IE, RockyMartin.com. Phone number 866-607-5667. And back in studio today, we're lucky enough to have both of our experts here. We've got Terry Wagner and Angela Meineke here in studio. Ladies, how we doing today?
Great. How about you, Mike?
Doing excellent. So I guess we're going to get into the mortgage process, and we're going to try to give the folks out there some information as far as the step-by-step process for you guys. So let's get into it.
Okay. You're correct. We do want to talk about today just the step-by-step process, and we're going to start off with what's the first step? The first step is to get pre-qualified for your home purchase. Kind of doesn't do a whole lot of good to go out and looking at houses unless you know what you're qualified for. So you want to make sure that you talk with one of us, one of the loan officers, myself or Angela, so that we can, number one, take a complete application on you, get all of the good information that we need, pull your credit, review that. We need to review your income and all of your assets. And what I mean when I say that is we're going to request you to send us the loan documents that are going to provide us proof of your income and your assets. We want to review those to make sure that everything lines up with exactly what we're going to be using for qualifying income.
Sure, absolutely. And a lot of people think that, do we have to get pre-qualified before we go out shopping for houses? No, not necessarily, although some sellers do require us to be able to have that on file before we go in to make sure you're a legitimate buyer. But also you do need to know, like you say, what exactly you qualify for. Is it $200,000,
right,
$150,000, $500,000, whatever the case may be.
You don't want to fall in love with the house for $300,000 if you only qualify for $250,000.
Exactly. You can't afford it. Well,
right.
What's the point?
Right. So you want to make sure and not even look at those properties. And then we're also in that initial process, that beginning process, we're also going to review the loan programs and determine with you or allow you to determine what loan program is going to best fit your needs. There are a lot of different loan programs, so we need to make sure that we figure out what's best for you.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, we're going to provide you with a pre-qualification letter so that you, Mike, will know exactly what we've talked about with the buyer and what they qualify for.
Absolutely. And you guys can always run all those numbers because a lot of clients, maybe they qualify for a higher value, but they want a lower mortgage payment. And so based on their needs, they might decide to shop at a lower level too.
That's correct. That happens a lot. They'll qualify for more than what they actually want to spend.
Okay.
So
sounds good. So that once we get that pre-approval letter, that gives us the green light to get out there and go shopping.
That's correct.
Yep. And what you're going to do next is basically go find a house. All of the information that Terry gave you is very, very important in determining where to look, how much to look for, what to look for. And then that pre-approval letter is extremely important as well, because you want to give that to your real estate agent whenever they do get ready to make an offer on a house. So the second step in the actual process is to negotiate the price, write an offer, and get accepted. During that phase, you're only going to be working with the agent back and forth. They're going to make sure that, number one, the price that you negotiate is in your budget based on what you were pre-qualified for. Number two, if the seller's going to contribute any of your closing costs, that's going to be determined during this phase. Some of our programs allow for no money down. And if you can get help from the seller with cover some closing costs, that's just an added bonus. Right. That's going to be negotiated during this phase. And then you're going to write an offer. The seller's going to review the offer, determine whether or not that's okay with them, negotiate back and forth. There may be, no negotiations and they just love the way that you initially write it, or you may go back and forth for a few days. Either way, your real estate agent's going to direct you during that process. Once the seller comes back, they accept your offer. We move on to the next phase.
Absolutely. And that's one of the really key issues in having that pre-approval letter in advance of getting out and going shopping, because generally you find the home that you want quicker than you think. And guess what? Let's say you go out, you shop, you find the house that you want, but you don't have your pre-approval letter. Sure, we can write an offer on it, but guess what the seller's going to do with it? They're just going to let it sit there.
Exactly.
And if there's multiple offers, it's going to go to the bottom of the pile, because we can't actually prove you're a legitimate buyer without that pre-approval. So we need that to make the offer, to make your offer legitimate to the seller. Absolutely. And then, as you said, knowing what to ask for from the seller. Mm-hmm. As a buyer, you may be in a position where you need help to get into the house. And so we need to write the offer that way, based on how they need help. Or if they're in a stronger position, maybe they don't need help. Maybe we attempt to get more dollars off the sales price versus on the back end helping their out-of-pocket closing costs.
Exactly. And you're going to know all of that by going through that first phase. Mm-hmm. And like you said, with a multiple offer situation, which is extremely, prominent in today's market, it's very, very important to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row, so that, like you said, when you find that house, more often than not, it's sooner than you think, maybe unexpectedly, you are ready to go and move on to that phase to negotiate and get the offer accepted.
Absolutely, because there's nothing more frustrating for a buyer than finding the house of their dreams, but then they can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
Or the seller just looks at their offer and says, well, you can't prove you're a legitimate buyer, and then maybe somebody else snags it up in the meantime.
Very disappointing.
Right. One other comment that I wanted to make about the pre-qualification letter and how important that is it's important, number one, to get the letter, but number two, who the letter's coming from. Mm-hmm. A lot of times those pre-qualification letters are not going to be taken very seriously from certain lenders. So, and Supreme Lending is not one of those. So you want to definitely go with a lender who's going to provide you with a pre-qualification letter that kind of holds a little bit of weight when you go to make that offer. Right. I know that personally I've gotten offers accepted strictly based on the fact that we were the ones that pre-qualified them.
Name recognition.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a huge thing. And for example, on the deal that we just closed with Randolito, and they purchased the other property that we got closed as well.
Right.
The original offer that we had come in on that property was through a bank I had never heard of. It was out of California, or it was some sort of broker out there. I ended up calling them, and of course, the buyers weren't approved. They said they weren't approved at all, but yet I had a pre-approval letter from that particular bank. So that's a great point, because we learned in the industry that that name recognition is huge, and there are people that do this the right way and actually go through the process of approving these buyers versus just throwing these pre-approval letters out there willy-nilly, and which don't mean a lot.
Correct. Okay, so then on to our next step. And the next step is they've accepted your offer. So what happens at that point? So you're going to then start signing everything. You're going to sign the application. You're going to sign your disclosures. And most of the time, trying to get it to 100% of the time, we can send those via email. So everything can be done over the internet. We don't have to actually meet face to face, but we can if you'd like. And then we're going to collect missing documents that we did not get in the very first step, or update those documents, because a lot of times when you get pre-qualified, it may be a month or two before you find a property, and we need to update things like paycheck stubs, bank statements, things like that. And then we're going to just make sure that everyone agrees on the terms of the contract, what loan you're going to go with, start looking at locking your interest rate, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Once you get everything to your loan officer, like Terry just mentioned, we're going to make sure that any loose ends are tied up. We're going to collect everything and turn it over to processing. In my opinion, processing is really the most important part of the entire process. The processor in our office is Heather. And what she'll do is she will gather everything for us and put it together. And she'll do kind of what I like to call write the story. In other words, let's make a story of exactly what this borrower does, who they work for, how much they make, how much money they have, and put it all together. This is also the phase that we're going to order the appraisal. Now, the appraisal is an important piece because what it's going to do is determine our collateral, which is the lender's collateral that we're going to use to loan on. Mm-hmm. We're going to get the appraisal back. We're going to review it, make sure everything's in good shape on the house that you're buying. And then from there, we're going to submit to underwriting. And Terry's going to tell us what the underwriting phase does.
Right. So the underwriter, when we say your file's gone to underwriting, that's exactly what it means. We've packaged the full file, and we're going to send it off to our underwriter for a licensed underwriter to review everything that we've sent in and give us our approval. Most often that approval is going to come in with what we call conditions. And then once those conditions are met, then we can go to our closing.
Closing's the best part. That's the exciting piece. That means everything's done. Mm-hmm. You may feel like you've been put through the ringer, but it's all worth it whenever you go to closing. You're going to sign your loan documents. There are quite a few, so be prepared to sign a whole bunch of documents. Any amount of money that is due to finalize the transaction is going to be paid at closing. You're going to sign the loan documents, and then we're going to fund, which means that we are actually going to lend the money to purchase the home. Of course, you owe that money going forward, but you get the keys. So that's right. Really the best part is when you can get your keys and start moving.
Absolutely. And I like what you said earlier about we're creating a story that because in a sense, we are pitching to underwriting.
Exactly.
Pitching to the powers that be that, hey, this is a good borrower, it's a good consumer, it's a good buyer, and they're worth the risk of giving them the money to buy that house. Because guess what? We feel like they're going to pay it back. I love the way you said that it's creating a story, and it absolutely is.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I mean, oftentimes our processor will have to call, our borrower, the buyer, and say, tell me what happened with this. It could be a derogatory item on credit. Well, if there's a good explanation for it and we can get that story and we can spell it out for the underwriter, oftentimes it makes sense. We understand that people have bumps and bruises along the way. Mm-hmm. Back in 2008 to 10 was a pretty rough time economically. There were a lot of people who ended up either losing jobs or maybe making late payments.
Absolutely.
If we can make that make sense and put it all together, like you said, and make sure that borrower is worthy of borrowing that money, then we can move on, and the underwriter is going to be okay with that.
Absolutely. Well, folks, look, it's going to be a lot of paperwork for you to go through, and you can. Getting a mortgage is a process, and you have to understand that. You have to strap on your big boy and big girl boots and, some adult paperwork that we're going to have to do to get you a mortgage with anybody. But you want the best as far as getting this done and having the experts get you through it, and that's why you want the folks over at the Rocky Martin team with Angela and Terry to get you squared away. What else do we have on this to wrap up?
That was it. We just kind of wanted to make sure that folks knew the process itself and that it is a lengthy process. Mm-hmm. So, and most importantly for the borrower and what we can convey to them is get us your stuff sooner. As soon as you can get it. When we request it, because if you wait a week, a week and a half to get us that stuff, it could delay our closing process. And we don't ever want that to happen. Our motto is we want to close loans on time every time.
Right.
So we need the information that we request, and we need it as soon as we ask for it.
Right. And it's important for the people to understand out there that, we're trying to make sure that we paint that picture to the underwriters, to the powers that be, that you're a good borrower, we can get you this loan. But at the same time, you guys have a lot of regulations and hoops that you have to jump through to underwrite these mortgages to begin with. So it's not just that you guys are trying to create a hassle for them. This is, you have to go through all of these regulations and adhere to them so that you're doing the right things legally and to get them a loan. So it's important for them to know that that's just part of the process. Well, folks, hope this has been super helpful for you guys out there. This is the folks from the Supreme Lending Rockwall team, the Rocky Martin team. Folks, the website is Rocky Martin, Rocky with an IE, RockyMartin.com. Phone number 866-607-5667. We've had Terry Wagner and Angela Meineke here in studio. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. We'll be back in a few. Attention real estate agents. The Snap platform, that's Snap, S-N-A-P-P, Snap, allows real estate agents to have their own branded and native mobile app available for download in both Apple and Android formats. It's not a matter of if or when, folks. The mobile revolution is here. If you aren't catering to it, you're sinking fast. It's a proven fact that people use mobile apps 66% more than mobile websites or desktop browsers, and that percentage increases even more when you're looking at home buyers that are in the searching process. Picture this: you've got a great conversation with a potential home buyer who hasn't yet agreed to work with you exclusively. You don't have your own branded mobile app yet, so you give the prospect your website, and they're going to use that when they want to search for available properties. The next day, that potential client is out and about, and they want to see what's for sale nearby. They aren't using their laptop. They are on their mobile devices. They visit your website, only to realize it's not a user-friendly mobile site as some of the real estate apps they've already tried. Your website may even offer that mobile version, but it lacks vital GPS functionality and other features that need to be available to the home buyer when they're looking in the mobile process. Being left with no other option, the person turns to a third-party advertising app such as Zillow or Trulia. They find a property they like and end up connecting with another agent through that app. End of story, end of opportunity. You just lost that potential client because you did not have a mobile app. The point is, having your own app is as crucial as having a website has been for years. Don't stop advertising with other apps because that can be an effective way to generate great leads. However, for any prospect with whom you're already interacting, whether it's a referral, a friend, a lead from a various lead source, your website, or anywhere else, do yourself and the home buyer a favor. Give them the mobile experience that they demand. Otherwise, they will find it somewhere else. Bottom line, you need your own app to sell more homes and to stay afloat in this crazy real estate world full of new technologies and apps. Snap makes it all easier and cheaper with their platform. Set up your real estate app today. Visit snaprealestate.com. That's Snap with 2 P's. Snaprealestate.com for all your real estate app needs. Neither the hosts nor the guests or contributors of the show Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga are attorneys, CPAs, tax advisors, or investment advisors, and are not providing legal advice during the course of the show. If you need professional legal advice or services in any of those categories, please seek the appropriate professional. The host is a licensed real estate agent in Texas with the Chris Arnold Premier Realty Brokerage, a fair housing broker and member of the MLS. Texas real estate agents are prohibited from providing legal advice.
News and information 570 AM.
96.3 FM HD2. KLIF Dallas. KSCS FM HD Dallas. KSCS FM HD Dallas. KSCS FM HD Dallas. KSCS FM HD Dallas. KSCS